it's not that many years ago that the whole adventure genre was declared dead. I mean, some of us still remember playing the old LucasArts games, but it seems that it was only surviving in Germany of all places. Telltale, though, has done something about that, and the newest, I would say, the newest game or game series is The Walking Dead, which the both of us have been playing, and we will try to keep this spoiler-free because this apparently is the sort of experience you should try out yourself. But let's start from the start, really originally. It's an adventure game, but what is an adventure game today?
Adventure game is, in terms of Walking Dead, is a 5-episode season tracking the adventures of one character, Lee Everett, that runs in parallel to the story of the Walking Dead comic and the TV series. Again, to discuss in detail is to spoil, but needless to say, the events in the game take place just outside Atlanta as Lee Everett is trying to escape what turns out to be a zombie apocalypse and meeting with various peoples who are also trying to survive and not get munched on by the undead. Point and click style, very much in vogue again, as we were saying. It is across multiple formats. You're playing it on PC. I've worked my way through on the iPad version. And we were sort of discussing before the show that it's really nice idea that you can strip down the UI to make it as mysterious as possible.
Yeah.
Really, you don't want to be handheld through this entire thing. But yeah, each episode deals with a specific location and a specific story point as your group of survivors grows or shrinks depending on the events within each episode. But needless to say, it is something that you definitely need to experience firsthand, because this is something you do not want to be spoiled. You don't want to read in a forum, you don't want to watch a review and have certain elements spoiled before a time.
Yeah, and I think it has to be mentioned that one of the things that really sets The Walking Dead apart as a game is that the choices you make, right? The choices have really, really deep, it affects everything you do in the game, and how you talk to certain persons and how you help them out will definitely dictate how your personal adventure unfolds later on.
And the great thing is there's no right or wrong in this. Everything is really unsettling. Every choice you make of the 4 you'll be presented with at each conversation, you can't really guess. There's no guesswork here as to where this will lead you, and you can only go with your gut. Your sort of gut feeling. I think that's the best way of approaching a game.
And it's funny that you mention that, because I usually tend to look for the right way to play a game like this, and I really couldn't find it here. So I just started, answering all the questions and trying to play like I would myself. And I think I'm a pretty decent guy, but some way in The Walking Dead, I usually just ended up in the most horrible situations where no one seemed to be happy about me. No one seemed to really want me there, even though I tried to be the good guy. And the story still just keeps going on, and it just seems to, from where I'm at, I haven't completed like you yet, but it just seems to be more and more horrible the farther I get.
Really spirals downwards. The things you'll see in episode 2 you think are horrific, they're child's play compared to what you'll see in 3, 4 and indeed 5. And something I think we should mention definitely with the choices, and certainly because it's so conversation heavy, the dialogue, the voice work, even the facial animation was all absolutely superb. Yeah. Don't be put off by the sort of cartoonish hue that Telltale really brings to most of their point-and-click adventures. There's some horrific scenes in here that, quite frankly, I think are actually more horrific because they're happening to so colourful characters. Yeah. But
all the characters are really well defined.
Yeah, there's a few, the cast that you will meet over the course of the game, there's a few, I think we were discussing this before, we have our particular favourites and people we don't really care about as such, but that's a great thing. Again, you respond to these people as you would if you were actually meeting them, and that implements about where you're going to go with the story. Okay, well I guess there are some negatives to the game. We're praising it highly here, but there are some problems, but they really come about in retrospect. You will want to play through the game again, and at that point you'll realise that the combat mechanics, the gameplay mechanics, are incredibly simplistic. You will, like sort of walking is maybe you'll walk 10 feet, cutscene, another conversation choice. And now this may be specific to the touchscreen, the iOS version, but the moments when you go into sort of first person to shoot zombies, is a little bit finicky. It's not quite precise, which can be a problem because every single scene where you interact with, if it's not a conversation with someone, it's you're trying to escape the undead. And that's the great thing about, even though these mechanics are very simplistic and there's a handful of them and they repeat each and every single episode, because they're in place where you will have 5-10 seconds to try and escape or, you know, shoot a zombie in the face before you're bitten, you forgo any sort of rationale of, hang on, I've done this 15 times already. So again, something that will come through in multiple playthroughs. What else? Again, we're treading very carefully here. We don't want to spoil a single thing for you. In fact, why are you watching us? Go download this. Don't listen to us.
It's even cheap.
It is cheap indeed. Well, pricing structure is obviously different across the different platforms, but you're talking what, about a tenner?
Yeah.
A little bit over a tenner for all 5 episodes. They're running maybe about an hour and a half per episode, depending on whether if you really do take your time on it. And we said there's the puzzles in it are fairly simplistic. Each location you will get to maybe has only a handful of items and objects to interact with. And it is usually a case where you've actually stumbled upon the solution to a puzzle before you even find the puzzle itself. So in that way, you're not going to be scratching your head
No,
too
it's
long.
definitely a game that's more about the story than it is about the puzzles, which I really enjoyed.
I think the way you look at it is it's an interactive comic book with your decisions influencing the story and how things are going to end up. But I would wholeheartedly recommend it. It's one of those games, I think one of those stories certainly that lingers long past completion, and I've been eager to be talking about it to people since I've concluded the game. Unfortunately, no one seems to have finished it yet.
Oh, just you wait.
But yes, as we said, it's out on Steam, it's out on Xbox, PlayStation,
iOS.
iOS as well. So if you can, get yourself on the app, get yourself on the game.